So, welcome to the first video of my channel. As you can guess by the title, in this video, I'm really going to be talking about my journey, my plan to get a USMLE Step 1 score 250 or above. I hope.
Bruh.
My plan is to upload a weekly video to share with you how my journey is going and to kind of describe and highlight some of the struggles that I face, some of the victories that I may have. So for those of you who are taking the USMLE this year or next year, I hope you can get something out of these videos, learn some tips and tricks, find out what resources that I found to be good, and really understand or to really experience what the journey of studying for the STEP is like 6 or 7 months out. I'm gonna go over through my weekly impression just to talk about how my week went. There was a good week or a bad week. Really, the purpose of these highlights is just to show you what a real student goes through, ups and downs, throughout the journey of studying for the STEP, because I know and I've watched many videos talk about the STEP and how they prepared for it retrospectively. I'm gonna give academic updates as well. So I'm gonna talk about my plan in this video. Every once in a while, I'll talk about my fitness and my diet, things I do at the gym, my workout regimen, how that has changed, how that has adapted to my year 2 as I prepare for STEP, what are the changes that I may make. Typically, I plan to end the video with something about my hope for the next week, what I hope to achieve the next week based on the previous week. So let's get right into it. Right here is the plan that I created. It's a rough plan. I mean rough because there's almost 100% chance that it will change probably even tomorrow, maybe even the next few days. It won't change drastically, I don't predict, but I imagine that it will change a few bits in terms of timing, in terms of number of questions I do, maybe even in terms of what kind of content that I cover. And I'll briefly explain why I chose these resources and why I structured my plan this way. Just a heads up, I did not complete any of these resources while I was in school. I didn't read first aid, I didn't do sketchy, I didn't do boards and beyond except for a few videos. Pathan MA, I did a few videos too, but nowhere near finishing anything. In school, I use our lecture notes for micro, I use our lecture notes for farm, and so you can get the idea that I really just use lecture notes for the last 1.5 years. I chose these resources in particular because I've read many testimonies, I guess you can say, or many stories of what people used while they were studying for the STEP. As you probably have noticed yourself, there's not one set template for every person. The guy I watched the other day who scored a 270, he didn't use first aid at all, but his reasoning was because he covered the material in another way, shape, or form. And that's kind of what I mean by there's no set template. It does depend how much self-studying you have done outside of school. So Boards and Beyond is my #1 resource for STEP. And by #1, I don't mean this is the first thing and only thing I'm going to use. It is the #1 resource for me because it is very comprehensive. And so let me show you what I mean. I'm going to put up a little screen of my iPad. And as you can see, I've been working through the cardiology section. Right now, I'm about 1/4 of the way through. So this moment is January 12th. I've finished renal, which I kind of started over winter break, and that's it. So this is what the PDF looks like. And what I mean by comprehensive is that it covers everything, as you can see. Very important. So it covers everything from anatomy, physiology. You can see all of this is like kind of physiology under that section. You start to get into pathology a little bit here, then you go back into, I wouldn't say physiology, but it covers like EKG and arrhythmias. It covers pharm as well here, it covers more general information, and then as you go down, you can start to see that it's becoming more pathology. There's embryology, there's more drugs, etc., etc. So this is what I mean by it's a good template, and this is the reason that I'm using it as my first resource. And so the videos are very helpful, and I did buy Boards and Beyond, and I bought it because I didn't want to. I bought it because it's the right thing to do. And also it has questions. I'm going to go to the member homepage. So in the member homepage, you can see that there's 447 videos, there's 2,327 questions. So it does provide a lot of questions for practice to help reinforce what you learn from the videos. And that's kind of what I found helps me the most, do some questions right after you study a video or study some notes. It helps reinforce it in the long run. So Pathan MA is fantastic in its own way. used by almost every single student. And while I have not completed Pathan MA, the reason I didn't use Pathan MA for school is because it's not comprehensive enough for the school exam. That's important to me because STEP does contain a lot of high yield material, but every now and then you will get questions on random facts and stuff, which is not covered in Pathan MA, is not covered in Boards and Beyond, and there's a higher chance that it has been covered in your lecture in some way, shape, or form. And the way I use Pathan MA is I'm going to watch Pathan MA and I'm going to use it to supplement Boards and Beyond. Boards and Beyond does have pathology, and they do have certain topics that are not necessarily covered in Pathan MA, just the depth wise or maybe just a topic as a whole. But Pathan MA does a good job in explaining some things, and I think both of them have pros, and I think combining those pros makes it for a more comprehensive way to study. So weekend. In the weekend, I said every weekend I plan to add school notes for pathology by system. It says also during the first 6 weeks to focus on schoolwork because we're still going through new material in school. We'll be going through MSK, we'll be going through some neuro, and we'll go through more ID and pharm. So these things are still going to be on the exam, and so that's why I recommend focusing on that. So micro, from what I hear, our school does a pretty good job of preparing us for micro. I mean, granted, it won't cover every single organism known to man, but it does a pretty good job, at least a solid 80%. And here's a sample of my notes. This is right here. These are the kind of notes I made throughout school. I made them for pathology, I made them for micro, and I'll be adding points taken from maybe first aid, taken from practice questions to this document. So this document is my supplement to the ID section of Boards and Beyond. So Friday Pharm. I chose Friday for Pharm because I did get a Pharm D a few years ago. Based on what I've seen in school, our school does a pretty good job of preparing us for Pharm as well. It does cover a lot of the high yield points that I do recall learning back in school. We have some pretty good lecture notes that they provided us, so I'll be using that. So the Q bank. I guess this is the most important part, and this is maybe this part where students are not sure how much to do or what Q bank to use. But to be honest, neither do I. And the video that I watched about these two guys getting about 260, 270, they did about 20,000 questions in total over a span of 2 years. So they started preparing for the STEP in year one, or one of them did 20,000, the other guy did like maybe over 15,000 or something like that. I'm hoping to go through about 10,000 questions. The three resources I'm going to use for questions is Kaplan, USMLE RX, and UWorld. So I might make an effort to go to UWorld again. If I have the time, I will try to do that. Like everyone says, UWorld is not meant to be used as a practice material. It's meant to be used as a resource to learn while practicing at the same time. I also hope to squeeze in about 1, hopefully 2 NBME exams, depending on how tired I get, if I have time to spare on a Saturday. And this should help me get through most of the first aid. As you can tell from my plan, first aid is not really on there. It's kind of on there later on. And the reason I put it there is because going through USMLE RX, going through Kaplan, going through all these questions, by around March or April, on top of what I've learned in school, I'm pretty confident that I'll have gone through at least 80%, hopefully 90% of first aid. That's why I'm saving first aid for later. If I need to skim, if I need to review anything, I'll be doing that. Like many people do, I'll be using it as a reference. So I'm hoping to get through about 40 USMLE RX questions. I plan to do them Monday till Friday in a randomized order. But on top of that, I will be doing the Boards and Beyond questions, obviously, as I go through the videos. And I will be doing Kaplan questions, hopefully about 80 every Saturday or Sunday. But after the first 6 weeks, I'm thinking that I'll increase it to maybe 3 blocks if I'm feeling ambitious than 4 blocks. So overall, it should take me about 3 to 4 months to complete these practice questions. So I'm guessing around May is when I should have gone through the USMLE RX questions. I should have gone through Boards and Beyond. I should be done by Boards and Beyond for sure. Pathan MA for sure. And Kaplan, right, Kaplan. And the reason for that is because from what I understand, USMLE RX, and from what I've done a few questions. It is really kind of like first order, second order questions. So it's just kind of to get the information in my head, and I'm hoping Kaplan will help take it a little bit further, closer to what the step will be like. So by the time that I do UWorld, hopefully everything will have integrated together, my knowledge and my ability to read a question, to understand what they're asking, and to go from point A to point B will be close enough that it won't be too difficult to tie it all at the very end. As my schedule says, I'll be starting UWorld in April. So that gives me April, May, June, and I guess maybe half July, because I plan to take the step at the end of July. So others are some of the things that added together on the list, not really for me to review, but it is for those of you who are maybe in your in your first year or just beginning your second year. Maybe you can consider, or you should consider, using it as a resource. yeah, to wrap it all up, so these next 6 months is definitely going to be a struggle. I hope you guys will join me whether or not you're in medicine. But if you are in medicine, I hope you can relate. I hope it gives you some more insight for what it's like studying for this step as a student, to see it as I go through it week by week, to prepare yourself better, especially in your first year, and to learn from the mistakes that I make on the way. So thank you all for sticking around for the video. I can promise you next week's video will be a lot shorter, and the weeks after that. Please hit the thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and we'll see you next week.